that is one of the most powerful people in the world that you have in your iPhone contacts. Yeah. I'm not trying to brag. I have some pretty relatively famous people. But if you call Donald Trump right now, I'll call John Mulaney right now.
That's pretty good. That would be a good conversation. I like that.
We could put both on speaker and have them talk to each other. It is the 1-year anniversary of Donald Trump's second inauguration. There's no way we could just cover that entire year in just one episode. I mean, it would take an hour just to list the Trump news cycles. Yeah, the tariffs, Zelensky, Gaza, ICE raids, that weird birthday military parade, calling in the National Guard, no King's protest, one big beautiful bill, Iran, Venezuela, Greenland for some reason. And he literally demolished an entire chunk of the White House. And then there's all the crazy he said. I mean, Tyler, just cut to what he said.
We're going to go the wrong way if we keep taking in garbage into our country. The U.S. will take over the Gaza Strip, and we will do a job with it, too. Don't take Tylenol. Don't take it. We're going to have all brand new, beautiful grass. You know, like everything else, grass has a life. Do you know that? So I was not a fan of Rob Reiner at all. Quiet. The windmills are driving the whales crazy, obviously. I'm really good at this stuff. Your countries are going to hell.
So for a 2025 Trump debrief, I wanted to sit down with the one reporter who might understand him better than anyone else. I'm talking about ABC News chief Washington correspondent, Jonathan Karl. He has written 4 best-selling books about Donald Trump, and his latest book is called Retribution, Donald Trump and the Campaign That Changed America. We talked about his relationship with the president. Are you in an abusive relationship with Donald Trump? The conversation he had in the Oval Office with Donald Trump about me.
So what do you do with this guy, Hasan Minhaj?
And how Donald Trump essentially sees foreign policy as a real estate venture.
Well, he literally has his real estate buddy as his envoy to the world.
Let's be honest. America has always kind of been a real estate venture. I mean, just ask indigenous people, or Mexicans, or Hawaiians, or Puerto Ricans, or Panamanians, or Filipinos, or Haitians, or Vietnamese, or Palestinians, or Afghanis, or Iraqis, or Syrians, or Libyans. I'm just giving 13 different examples. It's not like this is a pattern or anything, so what do I know? The show's called Hasan Minhaj Doesn't Know. I want to start with a quote from your 2021 book, Betrayal, the Final Act of the Trump Show. Now, Jonathan.
Yeah.
Is it true that you were president of the White House Correspondents Association, also known as the WHCA?
Yeah, under the Trump presidency, the first one.
Now, is it true that I was asked to help host your annual dinner in 2020 along with my fellow colleague and comedian Kenan Thompson?
It's true that I asked you to do that, and you graciously said yes.
March 4th, 2020, in your book, you said you had, quote, one of your strangest meetings ever with the president. Let's take a look at this quote. As with previous meetings with Trump, we were told to take a seat and wait for the president to arrive. As the 3 of us sat there alone in the Oval Office, we noticed a sheet of paper on the president's desk with the words, all caps, Hasan Minhaj, in big print on the top of the page. Was the president going to kill me?
I didn't know what he had in mind, but I also didn't know if this was a test, because I'm alone in the Oval Office. I mean, with 2 of my colleagues from the WHCA. Are they taping us? I mean, do you want to see? And what? I mean, you have to look at what's on the desk, right? But you can't go over and touch it.
So you keep elaborating.
Yeah.
And I'd love for you, for our audience, to narrate this.
Okay. So what do you do with this guy, Hasan Minhaj? That's how he said it. I remember how he put some emphasis, mispronouncing, but some emphasis on your name. The president asked me, holding the piece of paper that was placed on his desk. He was very nasty about Trump, he said, referring to himself in the 3rd person. So what are we going to do about this guy? What are we going to do? Do you know what I said?
What did you say?
Nothing, because he kept on talking. I never got a chance to really answer it. When he finally stopped talking, I just talked about how great you are. I said, you're going to like him. He's really smart. He's funny. He's going to do a great job. The whole purpose of this, we were asked to come into the Oval Office. The press secretary sent me a note saying the president wanted to talk to me about the White House Correspondents' Dinner and about appearing at the White House Correspondents' Dinner.
Yeah.
I hadn't invited him yet.
Oh, so this preempted the whole thing.
I hadn't invited him yet. There's a little bit of history here.
Right.
I mean, he had called the press the enemy of the people.
Sure. Yeah.
He had boycotted the 3 previous White House Correspondents' Dinner. On 2 of them, he had banned anybody who worked for him from going. So I wasn't, on one hand, you always invite the president of the United States. I mean, we've been doing it since Warren Harding. But on the other hand, I just wasn't sure. And I certainly wasn't going to beg him. And, he wanted to talk to me about it. And I guess they had done a little bit of research on you.
Yeah.
Kenan Thompson, I think he thought was fine. He didn't raise any questions about Kenan Thompson, but apparently he said you had been kind of nasty about Trump.
So what does the dossier look like? Is it on me? Is it like an NBA Jam sort of thing of like speed, height?
Yeah,
rebounds,
I couldn't get close enough to actually read it. And here's the thing. I was not going to negotiate with him. So if they thought that they were going to say, hey, you get rid of this guy, Hasan Minhaj, the president's going to come and do the dinner and you're going to be a big star. No, I'm not doing that. I hadn't even decided to invite him. Once he brought me in, I repeated a line to him. And I repeated this, I think, 3 times during the course of this. The meeting went on for a while.
Yeah.
It wasn't all about you, but it went on for a while. But he said to me, it would be a very big deal for you, Jonathan, if I did the dinner. It'd be a very big deal for you. And my response to him was, Mr. President, if you would like to come to the dinner, that's great. If you decide you don't want to come to the dinner, we will completely respect that decision too.
You have known the president for a very long time, and you have covered the president for a very long time. I mean, you talk about it. We're talking about this. Obviously, the pull quote we talked about was from this book, Betrayal.
Yep.
Okay. The final act of the Trump show. And then, of course, we have the new book, Retribution. In the book, you talk about calling the president at all hours because he doesn't sleep.
Right.
So Donald Trump does not sleep?
I can't figure out when he does. I mean, I think he sleeps a few hours a night. I mean, you can just look at his Truth Social feed and look at the stuff he's putting out 2 in the morning, 3 in the morning, and then first thing in the morning. I found, this is a secret from the campaign. It's probably changed a little bit into the White House. But I found during the course of the campaign that the time that I could call him and he would almost always answer the phone. I mean, I had a much higher percentage chance of Donald Trump picking up the phone than the deputy assistant press secretary of the Kamala Harris campaign picking up the phone on any given phone call. I mean, the phone, but I found 7 o'clock in the morning or even before 7, very early, or after 9, 10 o'clock at night. And I wouldn't call much beyond then, but you could.
But you have his number?
Yeah. Should we call him? No, it's probably not a good idea.
You could, but you could.
Yeah.
Look.
No, what's interesting...
Not to name drop, but that is one of the most powerful people in the world that you have in your iPhone contacts. Yeah. I'm not trying to brag. I have some pretty relatively famous people. But if you call Donald Trump right now, I'll call John Mulaney right now.
That's pretty good. That would be a good conversation. I like that.
We could put both on speaker and have them talk to each other.
You could talk about a horse in the hospital or something. It'd be great.
How do you navigate that? When do you know when to call him?
First of all, I called him a lot more during the campaign because it felt a little less weird to call a candidate. Still strange. I never called a major party nominee during the course of the heat of the campaign, but he clearly likes to be on the phone. Calling a president so I call him much less frequently now, and it's when there's a really important thing. So I'll give you a couple of examples of when I've spoken to him since he's been president. The morning after the Iran strikes, I called him before 7 a.m. It was before Good Morning America, I remember, because we go on at 7. And all we knew was that the U.S., there were reports of explosions in Iran. We knew that something had happened. We didn't know all the details.
So you're wondering, are we at war? Is the United States at war?
Yeah. What's happened? And he picked up the phone. And, it wasn't a long conversation, but he says, we did it. It was great. It was, he gives some, he talks about how amazing the military was, and and we took out their nuclear program, whatever. And then he's got to go. Another time I called him was right after Charlie Kirk was murdered.
And what did he say?
And that was, I called him, and what I said is, I wasn't so much calling to get his reaction. I was calling him as a human being to say, I'm sorry. because I knew that Charlie Kirk is somebody he was actually quite close with.
Oh, interesting.
And I said, I'm really sorry about what happened to Charlie. And he said to me, yeah, I'm sure you're really upset about that. And which sounds like it could have been like sarcastic, but it wasn't. It actually wasn't. Because then he said to me, he said, Charlie actually liked you. And he added, I don't know why, but he did. He liked you. And I don't think he was like making a joke. I think he was just saying really what was on his mind. And, you know.
I think you're one of the few people that can actually make sense of this cognitive dissonance. I mean, this is why this is really important. So who Donald Trump is in the streets and in the tweets is quite different than who he is in the sheets and on the phone. Help me make sense of this, because we also interviewed one of your colleagues, Caitlin Collins, who also is able to get in touch with him. And
for sure.
And I've been trying to, for the life of me, make sense of this, because in the streets and in the tweets and on Truth Social, he stands on business. He will put it in all caps. I hate you. I hate Rosie O'Donnell. I hate the press. And then on the phone, he can be magnanimous to you, or even pick up your phone call. I mean, if there's someone you dislike within your family, there are cousins you won't pick up their call.
Yeah.
You have said in the book that Trump goes back and forth between being, quote, savagely ruthless and, quote, exceedingly generous and complimentary. Who is he?
I mean, I what's the name of the show again?
Minhaj
doesn't know. So I don't know that I know the answer to that question. But my sense of him, and I have, by the way, I've known him since 1994. I was a reporter for the New York Post, and as a whole. So I dealt with him. He was like somebody I could get him. I didn't have we didn't have cell phones, I don't think, back then. But I could get him on the phone, and he was always ready with a quote. If it was a slow news day, he'd call up Donald Trump. So I've known him for a long time. I think he's always in the moment. I do think, my very first book on him, which I wrote after 3 years into his first presidency, was front row at the Trump Show, which I refer to the Trump Show because I think that he really did see the presidency and does. I think he's got a slightly different view now, but certainly in his first term, he saw it as the world's greatest reality show, and he was always programming for it. And you have heroes, you have villains, you've got friends who turn on you, you've got enemies who you flip. I mean, it's very
WWE.
No, it's entirely WWE. Yeah. I mean, and don't forget, he is a member of the WWE Hall of Fame.
Totally.
But
his head was shaved by Vince McMahon.
I mean, he is. I mean, literally Vince McMahon's.
Or he shaved. Sorry, I want to be actually accurate.
Please,
he shaved Vince McMahon's head.
Yes.
In the ring.
And Vince McMahon's wife is in his cabinet.
Correct.
Yes. So he is WWE. He also, empathy is not a really big thing with Trump. I mean, if he may say something just cuttingly nasty about you and not really process what that actually means.
I mean, he is savage. Here's a clip of him being savage to quite a talented journalist. Let's take a look.
The reason I won that lawsuit was because you were dishonest. You were proven to be dishonest. And so you can't sit back and just say, oh, well, what do you think? Like you're some wonderful person. You're not a wonderful person. Frankly, you're a terrible reporter. You know it, and so do I.
Jonathan, I just want to ask you.
Yeah.
Are you in an abusive relationship with Donald Trump?
Look, I don't think it matters what he calls me, and I
because I'm asking you as a friend.
Yeah,
Bina and I, we do have an extra guest room when my mom isn't staying there. It is yours.
Yeah, I mean, look, he does that kind of stuff, and then it's actually interesting. You know what happened after that? So it's in the Oval Office. I'm part of the press pool. That exchange happens. He takes like one or two more questions, I believe, and then it's over, and we're asked to leave. The press is asked to leave. As we're headed out, he motions me to walk come over to the Resolute desk.
Okay.
And he makes this gesture to say like, we're okay here. And then I said to him, that was pretty tough. And then he starts laughing. He says, no, you were tough. And I just go out. I'm walking now because they're really pushing the press out, and I'm walking out, and I hear him from behind say, "Thank you, Jonathan. Thank you, John," as we're headed out. I mean, it was like he saw it as like a little performance. So that's why you just, I mean, I don't sit there and take offense and be like, well, how could you say I'm not a wonderful person? Damn it, I am a wonderful person. I mean, I would never do that. My colleague, Mary Bruce, had an incident after that one where he really went after her. And you just watch her. She just continues to ask the question. As I was trying to do, he was kind of talking over me. But, you just continue to keep focused on what your job is. Trump early on said that the media was the opposition party. You're the real opposition party. So that's not true. I mean, it's not true in the case of me and my colleagues. And I don't want to do anything that makes it look that way. So I'm just going to focus on what matters. Him insulting me is irrelevant, or insulting my colleagues, I'll get a bunch of nasty tweets. I might get some threats, but whatever.
How do you feel about the ABC settlement for $15 million? I
mean,
now look, I don't want to mess up your bag. You have healthcare. I'm on YouTube. You have health insurance and a retirement plan. So just communicate how you feel about it through your face, and we'll just hold on you for 10 seconds.
Look, I really have nothing to say about that. But I mean, I look at the one thing. It was a settlement. I think it was just to do away with it. There was no admission of any. He says that you were found guilty. I mean, none of that happened, obviously.
In chapter 7 of the book, you talk about post-assassination vibes.
Yeah.
That there was this stark shift in who he was after the assassination attempt. Let's take a look at the quote. "Thank you, everyone, for your thoughts and prayers yesterday, as it was God alone who prevented the unthinkable from happening. In this moment, it is more important than ever that we stand united and show our true character as Americans, remaining strong and determined and not allowing evil to win." I mean, this level of sincerity, when I read it, I was like, is this Donald J. Trump or Lin-Manuel Miranda?
Oh, and by the way, it's important to think about what was happening in the world at that moment, because there was seething raw anger by Trump supporters, rightfully so, everywhere. The guy was shot at. Somebody tried to kill him. And one of the people that responded before that was J.D. Vance, who had not yet been chosen as his running mate, but who basically said that it was the Democrats who did this. After you impeach and you lie, you this is what happens. So he was like stoking the anger, not just that it was a crazy guy on a rooftop, who tried to shoot him, but it was like Democratic elected officials who were responsible for this. And Trump didn't do that. And I thought in that moment, I was actually in Milwaukee, because the convention, remember, it was Saturday night. The convention was opening on Monday. Right. We were out there. We were doing our show. We were planning to do the show Sunday from Milwaukee. I was out there when that happened, and I could just sense the tension.
Sure.
And my colleagues who were there in Butler they went out and immediately tried to report on what was going on, get eyewitness accounts, and some people in the crowd were taking it out on them. The hell with you. You did this. You're responsible. Even some worse things that were said to my colleagues that were out there. So look, it was a real moment of tension. So Donald Trump's statement there was incredibly important. It wasn't just a lot different from what you've seen everywhere else. It actually, I think, helped turn the temperature down in the country at an incredibly dangerous moment. Now, he cranked the temperature up not long after that.
Yeah.
But the moment had changed.
Well, what do you think wins out here? Because is it growth and humility that he's showing in that Truth Social post?
Yeah.
Or is it pettiness and anger? Because just recently he's touchdown dancing on Rob Reiner's grave.
Yeah.
So do you just see it as something that vacillates, or is there a true person that he is?
I mean, that was a unique moment for him. And that was actually the first phone conversation I had with him too, because I called him the Monday morning after the Saturday night assassination attempt. I had his phone number, but I hadn't used it. That was the first time I had directly called him, and I didn't think he would pick up. He didn't pick up. I left a voicemail message. I'm really sorry about what happened. He called me back Monday as the convention was opening up. He had just picked J.D. Vance. I was sitting at the ABC News booth in Milwaukee next to David Muir, our anchor, and we're about to go on the air, and my phone rings. And by the way, there's no, you think like you block caller ID or something? It says Donald Trump when he calls. And I'm like, David, I gotta, and I was on the phone with him that time for about 15 minutes. And he did sound like different than I had ever heard him. Very much the tone of that statement you just read. Kind of amazed that he had survived, he'd kind of, because he had seen, do you remember the photograph that Doug Mills took?
Sure.
New York Times reported that showed the bullet. No, the one with the bullet going by, and you could see
Oh yeah.
The bullet going by. Yeah. So anyway, but look, far more frequent is what you see with Rob Reiner.
But you sensed a guy in that moment, an older gentleman in his late 70s,
who said who had gone through an experience that shocked him and had an impact on him. Now, it did not last. I mean, the convention was a totally different convention than it would have been. I mean, they really didn't do a lot of the hellfire and brimstone speeches that you would normally. I mean, you had all the WWE thing going on, but it wasn't Biden wasn't mentioned all that much. I think he said the word Biden once in his speech after telling everybody he wouldn't do it once, but he did it once. But it was very different. It was very different. But he was right back at it within days.
What I'd like to do is this episode is going to come out in a couple weeks. And I think that January 20th, 2025 to January 20th, 2026, that year in review, I'd call it the year of retribution, just like your book.
Yeah.
I want to go over the highlight reel.
Sure.
Okay? Let's take a look at this. Retribution 2025. Prosecutors involved in the January 6th case were fired. James Comey and New York Attorney General Letitia James were indicted. John Bolton had his house searched by the FBI. Stephen Colbert was canceled, and Rosie O'Donnell moved to Ireland. What's the stat line with Donald J. Trump going after his personal and political opponents in the year of retribution, in your opinion? Who are the winners and who are the losers?
Look, he said during the campaign, "I am your retribution." The full line was, in 2016, I said, "I am your voice." Now I say to you, "I am your retribution." And his first campaign rally was at Waco, Texas, which had been a place that had become a symbol to the far right back then, 1995, of the overreaching, abusive, out of control, secret, deep state federal government. ATF, FBI, they're coming for you. Black helicopters. I actually wrote a book about that, much shorter book, but I wrote a book about that. So I could see that this was his theme. I mean, he had other themes he talked about during the campaign, but running through it all was these people tried to and are still trying to put me in prison. These people came after me, and if I come back into power, I am going to bury them. I am going to go after them. And not the performative Trump show stuff. I'm really going to go after these people. So January 20th, a year ago, yesterday, when this is for us, January 20th, 2025, he pardons or commutes the sentence of every single individual that was in part of the attack on the Capitol, including those that beat up police officers. And at the Justice Department, there's a guy named Emil Bovee, who I write about pretty extensively, who is basically the king of the Justice Department. Because the Attorney General nominee, it's going to take a while till she's sworn in, Pam Bondi, Todd Blanche, who's going to be the deputy. It's going to take a while for him to be sworn in. This guy in the number 3 position doesn't need to be confirmed by the Senate. By the way, all 3 of them had one thing in common. They had all worked as Donald Trump's defense attorney at one point or another.
Understood.
But Bovee goes through, and you mentioned the firing of prosecutors. It was more than that. I mean, it was it was a hollowing out of everybody at the FBI and at the Justice Department who had been part of any of the cases against Donald Trump or any of the January 6 cases. I mean, these are senior career national security prosecutors and investigators who are gone.
Were you shocked?
Like immediately.
Were you shocked at the level of efficacy? The fact that it happened, I mean, again, like we talked about in the streets and in the tweets, but the actual efficacy from a political perspective of like, oh, these are real results.
I was already writing this book, and I was already deciding that I was going to call it Retribution. So I knew that this was the plan. But yes, the swiftness and the totality of it was actually shocking, even if it wasn't surprising. So he goes through and does all of this. You know, the pardoning, just take that for a second. 1,500 people, all of them pardoned. In the days before he gets sworn in, everybody's wondering, who's he going to pardon? He's promised the J6 hostages, he's going to take care of them, all that. But he's really not going to pardon like the guys that beat up police officers, is he? So J.D. Vance goes on, I believe it was the Fox Sunday show, and is asked, so who's he going to pardon? You know, how far the pardon's going to go? And Vance says, well, you know, I mean, we're not going to pardon people that beat up police officers, but, you know, we're going to take a look at everybody in case-by-case basis. So even J.D. Vance didn't think it was going to go this far. And it's like basically the first act he does. I mean, a couple other things. He's got some executive orders he signs at his first rally, but the first real major thing he does is total blanket pardon for everybody.
Did you take that as this is the signal on day one that if you are loyal to me, I got you from the most minor of infractions all the way to essentially murder. If you are disloyal to me, hell hath no fury.
Yeah, yeah. And, you know, some of the steps he would then take later on in the year, I mean, were really pushing the limit beyond which, look, there's nobody like at the White House now telling Donald Trump, look, sir, we really shouldn't do this. It's, you know, I mean, people advise him, but it's like he's got the people around him who are going to carry out the orders. But when he, you know, decides to prosecute James Comey, I mean, I remember when, you know, he wanted Bill Barr to prosecute Comey, his attorney general at the end of his first presidency, and, you know, and Barr just wouldn't. He's like, there's no case. What are you talking about here? But this time around, the career people once again said there's no case here. The prosecutor that he had named to the Eastern District of Virginia, which had the jurisdiction over this, said there's no case. Gets fired.
Right.
Replaced by, so, you know, he was willing to go to almost any extreme to get after the people that he saw as his enemies.
At any point, did you feel in fear of your safety and what you've done?
Well, the same day as what you showed in the Oval Office, early in the day, he had arrived at the White House on Marine One. I was out there on the South Lawn with the other reporters asking some questions. And Pam Bondi, the Attorney General, had said that the Justice Department was now going to look into prosecuting hate speech. The context is, you know, all the anger after what happened to Charlie Kirk, and, you know, she was saying we're going to go after people because it's dangerous. Hate speech meaning people criticizing people in Trump's movement. And but a lot of the Trump supporters out there thought that was a terrible idea because they know that if you're going after hate speech, eventually they're going to go after them as well. And it's like hate speech is free speech. So I just asked Trump a very simple question. Your attorney general said that she's going to go after hate speech. Some of your supporters say hate speech is free speech. What do you think of it? Just a very basic.
Sure.
Where do you stand on this?
Yeah.
And his first answer, he says to me, well, maybe she'll go after people like you. You have a lot of hate in your heart. And that was a shocking moment, not because of me personally, but you have a lot of hate in your heart, and you haven't been fair. So the idea that the President of the United States is suggesting that the power of the Department of Justice could be brought to bear against journalists
Yeah.
who the President of the United States doesn't believe are fair. That's a very interesting reading of the First Amendment.
Right. Let's talk about Trump and the military.
Yeah.
National Guard troops are being pulled right now from Chicago, Portland, Los Angeles. It was a Supreme Court decision.
Yeah.
But will they return, in your opinion? Is Donald Trump waiting for black teenagers to set off fireworks inside of a Walmart parking lot, and he will incite the insurrection act?
Okay, so the one of the backdrop of why he pulled back the National Guard in the cities, it came after the Supreme Court ruled that he couldn't send the National Guard in against the wishes of the local leaders. But there was a aspect of that decision that said that if the president's going to, I'm bastardizing this, so please look at the actual decision.
Sure.
But basically said that he would have more authority to send in the active duty military than to send in the National Guard. Now that runs into other issues, posse comitatus, and there's other issues about whether or not you can use the military against, on the streets without calling the Insurrection Act and all that. But I think that if he goes back again, it's, potentially at a much higher level, and it's not National Guard, it's active duty military.
We're having this conversation shortly after an ICE agent was caught on video.
Yeah.
Straight up murdering an American citizen. So people are angry about it, and they may possibly protest by the time this episode is live. Do you think Donald Trump would use protests or something similar to protest as an excuse to invoke the Insurrection Act?
I mean, he certainly wanted to do that last time. He largely didn't because his Attorney General and his Secretary of Defense not only advised him against it, but also kind of like distracted him a little bit so he wouldn't go through with it. I mean, this isn't betrayal. I recount a scene where the defense secretary at the time starts mobilizing active duty military, the 82nd Airborne, I think it was, to Washington, D.C., to outside the city. He has these guys coming into Fort Belvoir, which is like, an hour outside of Washington. So that the stories are, oh my God, the military is mobilizing the active duty. He wasn't doing it because he wanted to send the troops into the city. He liked the story that was criticizing him because it made Trump think there's something going on that there really wasn't. So those people are gone now. Now you have Pete Hegseth and you have Pam Bondi. So the limits are much less so. The question is, if protests really got out of control. Remember what we saw in 2020? We saw a police station in Minneapolis set ablaze. I mean, if you really saw protests get out of control, I don't think that he would hesitate to do that.
With confrontations between protesters and ICE agents in Minneapolis showing no signs of slowing down, President Trump is threatening to send in the military, posting on social media that he may invoke the Insurrection Act to stop what he claims are professional agitators and insurrectionists.
Let's talk about retribution towards immigrants, immigration. Here's a stat line for 2025.
Yeah.
There were reportedly over 600,000 deportations, 1.9 million, quote, self-deportations. An expanded Muslim ban, an attempt to end birthright citizenship. The Supreme Court decision on that, by the way, is TBD. ICE agents are cosplaying Grand Theft Auto right now. But I want to talk to you about this tweet by Homeland Security. America after 100 million deportations. Taking a look at this, do a majority of Americans share this vision of our country looking like a Calvin Harris mixtape cover? I
mean, I certainly, I don't believe so. But I mean, this is really, and this is an official federal government statement.
This is up there, in my opinion, with the
100
roses are red, violets are blue. If you are illegal, we will deport you, which they have also tweeted. I don't know if it's at DHS Gov, but it was.
But obviously, you're not talking about just deporting people that are here illegally. 100 million deportations. You're going far beyond people that have come in without documentation.
What do you make of these tweets? What's being signaled here? That's a third of the country. 100 million people is approximately about 28 to 33% of this country. So it's like it's
I mean, it's mind blowing. I mean, look, a lot of what.
And then how do you cover this at ABC?
I mean,
you're like, what do I do with this?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of what they do is, they want people to be. They want the people that don't like them already to be outraged, and they want Rosie O'Donnell to decide Ireland's not far enough. I mean, they're trying to get a rise out of people. I can't really explain it. And how do you cover it? First of all, the tonnage is there's so much. Mm-hmm. There's so much, and you're left to try to what I've tried to do since the day he got in the first time is let's pay less attention to what he says, to what he actually does.
Yeah. Let's follow what he's doing.
But when you're the president of the United States, what you say matters too. So it's not that simple.
Right.
It's not that simple.
Well, let's give this a case study because I'd love your analysis on this.
Yeah.
And this is a bit of both policy analysis and then media analysis. We're having this convo, top of 2026. Happy New Year to you, Jonathan Karl, and Happy New Year to Venezuela. Now, usually when we invade a sovereign nation, like we did in Haiti in 2004, we generally just kidnap their president, but we don't make it public. Definitely not in grid, maybe in stories, but it's kind of hush-hush. This time, Maduro was on his way to Planet Fitness, full Nike tech fleece. We kidnapped the dude.
Yeah.
What is Donald Trump's strategy here? Why the live tweeting?
I mean, if we go back to what we said earlier, the presidency is the world's greatest reality show. This is a hell of an episode.
Okay. And so he's like, this is my time to take The Intercept out of business.
And
break news. I'll drop the JPEGs. I'm going to do it.
Yeah, yeah. And look, it was an unbelievable military operation. I mean, it's kind of mind-boggling what they did. Now, I used to cover the Pentagon.
Yeah.
I know that the people that were part of that operation would have much rather not had, live tweeting of this stuff and all this out there.
Well, you had a story about Trump and Venezuela in 2018.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, because first of all, it is a little bit. You have to kind of step back and say, wait a minute, we just effectively invaded Venezuela,
sovereign country.
What's going on?
Right.
But what I found out as I was writing my very first book was that there was an incident in 2018 where Donald Trump was getting briefed by his national security team in the Oval Office, and his national security advisor was going through and mentioned Venezuela. There were protests, and there was an effort to key up sanctions against Maduro back then.
Yeah.
And Trump said, what are the military options? What are the military options for Venezuela? And the National Security Advisor, H.R. McMaster, was who it was, said, oh, sir, we don't have to worry. There's a lot of other tools that we have, and we've got diplomatic pressure, economic pressure. No, what are my military options? And then he once again says, well, we've got other things we can do. And Trump loses it on his National Security Advisor. The meeting ends, and he says, as it ends, he's saying, damn it, I want the military options. So H.R. McMaster says, okay, sir, I will reach out to the Pentagon and I will get those options for you. He goes down the hallway. John Kelly, who was the chief of staff at the time, follows him down the hallway and says, what are you doing? And he says, well, I'm going to call the Pentagon. I'm going to do what the commander-in-chief just said. And John Kelly, who didn't say a word about this while the meeting was going on, by the way, said, don't do that. You can't do that. Don't do that. Just pretend that didn't happen. And and he didn't call and get the military options, and Trump was off to other things. But when I was first told about this, I had a single source tell me about it. I was like, that can't be true. The president's not talking about war with Venezuela. Come on. What are you telling me? Right. And my source was like, no, somebody that was at the meeting, this really happened. So I ended up talking to two other people that were in the meeting.
Yeah.
I talked to H.R. McMaster about it. And it was
and they confirmed the story.
100% true.
Does this terrify you? This is an important story that you're telling because that's Trump 1.0, which basically what you're saying is...
When there were people that were kind of reining
exactly, guardrails, which is, hey, Dad didn't mean that.
Yep.
We're actually not...
And there were two kinds of guardrails there.
Yeah.
There was one, H.R. McMaster, who to his face is telling him it's not a good idea and we don't need to do that. And then there's the other guardrails, John Kelly, who is not confronting him, but is going to undermine him behind his back.
Yeah.
And those things are both gone.
the guardrails and the adults in the room to say, let's talk about this offline.
Yeah.
They close the Zoom meeting and then just disregard what
he was like, what he meant was, not real.
Every time the United States invades another country, I find when I'm watching it live, so let's talk about what's happening in Venezuela right now. It feels like when I'm watching the news, the press frames it as an exciting adventure.
Yeah.
Feels very Indiana Jones. Dun, 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 dun.
Well, I mean, you've got all the material that's been put out by the White House and
the New York Times triples the font size.
And
ABC graphics packages going nuts.
Yeah. You got that low light photography. It's all,
Is there anything that's going to be different about it this time, where there's perhaps proceeding with caution? We don't know what's going on. I don't know if you followed this, but Sean Stockman, one of the lead singers of Boyz II Men, was also breaking this story and then had to pull back on Instagram and say, my bad, I don't fully have all the facts and details. But my serious question, and I'd love your analysis on this, is why won't the majority of the mainstream press use the word kidnap? They'll use words like captured or seized, when in fact it is an invasion of a sovereign country and you are quite literally kidnapping a leader of a sovereign country.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, I don't think that's. I think you can allow people to kind of make up their mind how they see it, and you can describe what actually happened, which is him capturing. And if you consider it a kidnap, or if you consider it, the removal of an illegitimate president. I mean, look, Maduro did absolutely steal the election. I mean, this was an actual stolen election. Right. I mean, not like a pretend stolen election. Yeah. This was a real stolen election.
Yes.
Done horrible things to any opposition figure in that country. Kidnap's a pretty loaded term.
Yeah, it's a loaded term because it's loaded with the truth. Kolkata Chai has brand new tea bags. It is so easy, I literally don't have to think about it. Hot water, tea bag, mug. Dunzo. Okay, but what do I think about now? But real talk, what is a microwave actually? It hums, it dings, it spins, but what is making the food hot? Hello! Screw you, countertop Chernobyl. Hard pass. Okay, just enjoy this moment for 1 second without, ooh, hello fridge. Oh, my chilly little frenemy. I tolerate you, but I do not trust you. Do you remove heat or do you add cold? Ew. I'm getting cold just thinking about it. I should make some chai to warm up. Stupid Hasan, you're already making chai. But I forgot about it because these tea bags are literally doing all the work. Wait, is it a tea bag or a chai bag or a chai tea? Nope, no. Not going there. Just add hot water, milk, and sweetener of your choice. Honestly, it's the best chai in the game. I should go tell someone. Trump has talked about taking over Greenland, the Panama Canal. He said Gaza should be turned into a resort after all the Palestinians leave. He basically thinks of, in my opinion, foreign policy as a real estate venture.
Well, he literally has his real estate buddy as his envoy to the world.
Okay.
I mean, Steve Witkoff is a real estate guy. And he's, in many ways, performing the duties of the Secretary of State. Marco Rubio is the National Security Advisor. He spends most of the time at the White House.
Right.
Witkoff is the most significant, I think, presidential envoy.
And just for our audience, give some perspective on who Witkoff is.
I mean, Witkoff is a real estate guy, business guy who's been friends with Trump for a long time, a golfing buddy of Trump's. He was actually golfing with Trump at the time of the second assassination attempt. Witkoff was in his foursome when the Secret Service spotted the guy in the bushes. So he's not a guy that has any, foreign policy experience, not a, not a government guy. But, he represents Trump very well. And he seems to be a rather tireless dude. And he goes out there and he's Trump's envoy. So Trump does look at the world, I think, a bit like a series of real estate transactions. What I think is, what I'm trying to come to terms with is the use of military in all of this, because Trump was very reluctant to use military force in the first term.
I mean, he talked about, even before he ran in Trump 1.0, how much he detested it.
Yes. And if you think about it, there was an incident where the Iranians in the first term took out an American drone that was in international airspace, and the military wanted to strike Iran in retaliation. And Trump looked at all the options and pulled back and did not do it. He did take out Soleimani, the leader of the Iranian Quds Force, in January of 2020. So that was one point where he did. He did respond to Syria after they used chemical weapons. But at that point, he was given 3 different options, kind of big, medium, and small. And he took small. Took the least possible option. And now look what he's done just in the first... just in the first couple of weeks of this year, last week of last year, first week of this year, he bombed more boats in the Caribbean. He went after ISIS in Nigeria. He went after ISIS in Syria, and he invaded Caracas and captured. Whatever word you want to use.
I'm gonna say kidnap.
Okay. The president of that was all in the space of like 14 days. So it seems like he's discovered something, a power that maybe he didn't fully appreciate that he had. I think when that Iranian operation took place, right, and those B-2s, and they fly for 30 some hours, and they got the air-to-air refueling, and they go there and they hit exactly. They go to. I mean, you've heard him talk about it 100 times.
Yeah, he thinks.
I mean,
it's cool.
that was wild. And he's in the situation room. He gets to see it, and then a little while later, Hegseth's showing him how they can go after these boats. Look at this. There it is. Watch. Right. Boom. It's like a video game.
Yeah. It's like Battleship, but in real life.
Yeah, and so that's a whole different thing. And again, while I'm still trying to come to terms with
together.
I don't think he still has any appetite for like wholesale invading a country and sending 100,000 troops to occupy. I think that he's been very reluctant to have much involvement in Gaza, for instance. But this is a different thing. This is different.
A lot of people are horrified by how upfront Donald Trump will be about specifically the real estate project that is the United States of America.
The transactional nature of it all.
But I was thinking about this, and tell me what you think about this. Hasn't the United States always been a real estate venture? I wrote this down.
Yeah.
1953, the invasion of Iran over oil. 1954, Guatemala. That was bananas. 1983, Grenada, 1 airstrip. 1991, Iraq, oil. 2003, Iraq, oil. 2011, Libya, oil. 2015, Syria, oil. 2026, Venezuela, oil. Alaska, the purchase of Alaska from Russia. Talk about the ultimate real estate venture, 1867. Hawaii was just taken in 1898. Moana was just dancing.
Yeah.
It was a sovereign collection of islands. And
Louisiana Purchase, which we got from Napoleon, who
Yeah.
I think he kind of got from his brother, right? Who he put as the...
So just riffing this with
President
you,
of Spain.
this kind of pearl clutching that how could they?
Yeah.
Is this really about land? Hasn't it always been about real estate?
we've always...
And now it's just in all caps.
You had Woodrow Wilson talk about making the world safe for democracy. You had, Ronald Reagan talk about, bringing down the evil empire. You had George W. Bush talk about how we're going to make the world, safe for democracy. His phrase was, we're going to end tyranny in the world. That's what George W. Bush said in his second inaugural address in January of 2005. So there has always been Jimmy Carter and the crusade for human rights. Right. There's always been the notion, at least rhetorically from our leaders, that we are about being a force for good in the world. Yeah. Now, you've come with a series of examples. I think you can argue that America has, in many instances, been very much a force for good in the world. You look at what George W. Bush, you had Iraq, yes. You also had PEPFAR and how many lives were saved with George W. Bush saying we are going to end the AIDS epidemic in Africa. By the way, a program that's been gutted and decimated. Yeah. And the money that the money that USAID has spent, a program created by John F. Kennedy to spread goodwill for America. Now the Chinese,
and Atul Gawande, who's a guest that we had on the show, and what was great about what Atul was laying out, a non-military option, by the way.
Yes.
A non-military form of diplomacy.
Yep. And that whole notion of soft power. So yes, it's goodwill and we're helping people, but it's helping the United States.
Correct.
Because we are gaining goodwill and influence around the world. Yeah. And Trump doesn't he's not part of that at all. I mean,
my fear with him, with his fascination with B-2 bombers, and it going from real estate to more military, is can't we get him obsessed with something else? Because you've talked about this. He'll get obsessed with stuff. I have a 5-year-old who's obsessed with dinosaurs. I can't get him to put his clothes on and go to school because he's like, why would I put my clothes on when there's a raptor called the Utah raptor? We found him in Utah. Why do you want me to go to school when there's a
That's
raptor
pretty cool.
in
That's pretty cool. Yeah.
And it blows his mind, and I have a 75-year-old father, and it blows his mind too.
Well, did you see what Trump was doing down while he was in Mar-a-Lago over the holidays? He also went out shopping for marble.
Okay.
You know, so there is something that he is very much putting a lot of effort into.
Is Trump obsessed with interior decoration?
He really is, and exterior decoration. I mean, he is putting a lot. You go and see him. People go to see him now. He loves showing off what they're doing. I mean, you see every day there's more gold. You can't really put any more gold yet inside the Oval Office because it's almost all covered that way. But you see what he's done to the colonnade, which was just, you know, that kind of, you remember, you know, the photos of John Kennedy and Robert F. Kennedy during the Cuban Missile Crisis, alone in anguish, you know, thinking big thoughts in the colonnade, that little pathway right next to the Rose Garden. Well, now that's all like filled with gold and portraits and all kinds of stuff. You know, the Rose Garden itself has got those paving tiles, so you can, I mean, he's into music, he's into being a DJ. I mean,
what?
Yeah. So,
wait, what?
Yeah, he would play DJ at Mar-a-Lago during.
He's on the Serato, like he's literally a DJ, like Cypher Sounds.
He's. I mean, I don't know his technique, but he is. The White House reporters will tell you that in the middle of the day, sometimes you will hear really loud music, and it's emanating from the other side of the briefing room. You know, the briefing room, the wall to the briefing room.
Okay.
When you're facing the podium, that left wall.
Yeah.
On the other side of it is the colonnade and the Rose Garden.
Right.
So that's where he does his DJing. So you can hear it. And he plays it loud. He's into it. The playlist is a little bit.
I think what we have to do is get him into HGTV, which is essentially the Home Garden Network, which is.
It's reality TV.
Yeah, reality TV, redecorating and redesigning. Yeah. It is super interesting and fascinating to watch. It's very life affirming.
Yeah.
Wow, we have high agency and we can change and rebuild homes. Yeah. Dinosaurs would be another, and maybe we tap into his DJ skills.
I mean, they're doing stuff at the Kennedy Center.
Yeah, because left to his own other vices, things can get really, really bad. I have 2 final questions for you before we get out of here. You have been covering politics for a long time, 3+ decades. Mm-hmm. Do approval ratings matter? Because when I read them on the news, it's always hovering. So right now, the president's approval rating is at 36%. It's at 38%, 44%, the lowest ever. Like, do they matter, or are they just kind of there? Well,
theoretically, he's never running for re-election again, and I think he really isn't. So it doesn't matter in that sense. But historically, the popularity or unpopularity of the president is a major indicator to how his party is going to do in the midterm elections. So when you see a presidential approval rating hovering just above 35% or so, that is total danger zone historically. Now, look, we've been breaking a lot of historic trends, so I wouldn't take anything to the bank. But in that sense, it does matter.
Let's talk 2026.
Yeah.
Later this year. We've obviously done the year in review, but the midterms are coming up, and people are going to talk about mobilizing the youth. Where is the youth?
Yeah.
Let's take a look at some analysis from a dude who was tapped into youth culture in 1996. I believe his name was either Jerry or Jonathan Karl.
Young people, I think, in a large part, do have their priorities straight. They don't turn to Washington in as large numbers as the rest of us, as the rest of the age cohorts, because they believe that Washington is less relevant to their lives. It's not only the presidency, Rich, it's also Congress. Young people are very active, very engaged, more so than previous generations at this age, but they're looking in their own backyards, because the time of turning to Washington and thinking that Washington's where my problems are going to either be created or solved is a time of the past for a lot of young people. They said, look, whatever the president says, whatever the congressional leaders say, just doesn't have as much relevance to my life as what's going on in my own town or my own school.
Where did you find that? My God.
2 things. Number one, I love the hair. And don't let anyone tell you otherwise.
There was more of it back then, but yeah.
But in all seriousness, congratulations on a 30-plus year career. But I want to piggyback off that.
Yeah.
That was in 1996.
Yeah.
Windows 95 was blowing people's mind. People were obsessed with solitaire.
Yeah.
But now that you look back on that clip,
Yeah.
how much have young people's orientation towards politics changed since that young Jonathan Karl was talking about
what I
young
was
people in
saying,
politics?
what I was saying there is, even as I was talking about the involvement and the energy of young people, I was saying that they weren't looking to Washington because they didn't think that Washington was going to solve their problems, but I also said, or create their problems. They're like, I'm going to more focus on my backyard, my own community, my friends,
Right.
I think that now young people are paying much more attention to what's happening in Washington and concerned about what it means for their lives. I mean, I think that's, there was, remember Charles Krauthammer? Charles Krauthammer was a great columnist. Did a column for years at Time Magazine. It was the back page of Time Magazine. And around that time, probably a little before, a lot of the commentary about young people was real concerns about that they weren't voting. Voter turnout among young people was going way down with each successive election. And Krauthammer's, the headline of his thing is "In Praise of Low Voter Turnout." And his point is he wanted to live in a society where young people didn't feel like their livelihood and their well-being was going to matter by who is in office. It's kind of an interesting kind of way of looking at it.
What an interesting
but I think
that they would be okay. That therefore they don't have to worry. about politics?
Yeah.
Got it. So it was an optimistic thing.
It was an optimistic thing. So if people if they all feel like they've got
The
to vote,
status quo is so good.
Yeah,
You don't have
it's like
to-
whatever. Who cares who it
Right.
is? And I've got my own thing on, and I'm not worried about it.
Right.
But I think that people are, young people are actually truly heavily engaged now, and unlike what I was talking about there, they're concerned about what's happening in Washington.
Ladies and gentlemen, that was Jonathan Karl. Thank you so much for giving us the recap in the year in
Thank you.
Retribution. The book is out now. This is the 4th Jonathan Karl book. Jonathan, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, man.
Thank you.